Welcome back to discussion for the class. This is going to be for vlog 3A. I will be discussing parts of the books that we were assigned to read. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first piece of the reading was from Julia Putnam. I think that's her name. She did write about the teaching students to be change makers. The main point in her argument, or the piece that she wrote, was she explored the three illusions she borrowed from Democracy is Not a Supermarket by author Amand, and how these illusions tie into how we as educators and even as a society can better teach our students to be change makers in the school as well as the communities around them. Putnam also reminded us through Miss Grace Buggs that there are no quick fixes in education. Time influences change, people influences change, and being consistent and persistent with the movement, along with patience, is what allows change to occur. She noted that even though we expect students to, that we test students about the communities that they live in or the history of the community, and also in the same note, failing them for not knowing enough about it, which goes to show that we don't teach the students about the communities in general, but we test them regarding those topics, which obviously they don't know anything about, and we shouldn't use standardized tests to measure their intelligence or their knowledge of their community, because they themselves know the communities more than we as outsiders know. The next reading was from Richard Milner IV. He was talking about the piece, yes, how politics and race belongs in the classroom or in education in general. His main point was is that teachers need to find ways to have difficult conversations with their students in the classroom. This is to ensure that students being part of the conversation is not neglected, as these political and social issues and circumstances also affect students, and if not one particular student, it does affect the peers, and therefore integrating these topics and discussing in the classroom will be very beneficial for the students. Because those circumstances does affect them as much as it affects the adults. Their education, their attention in the classrooms in particular can also be affected by these issues. Milner also went on to list 10 tips teachers can use in the classrooms to lead the conversations on difficult slash hard topics being discussed in the classrooms. And one of them is that, and these difficult topics that he mentioned were in a sense of politics and social issues. It could be current ones or past ones as far as they are discussed in the classrooms. Some of the tips that he mentioned were, I'm just going to summarize them instead of actually talking in depth, and then talk more about it when I'm done listing all of them. So one of them is teachers and student expectations. He wanted students or teachers on the first day of class, something like that, to discuss what they expect from each other, designing a question that is going to guide them and is going to guide them within the classroom as they go through the semesters or even the years that they're with the teacher and the students. And I think I've noticed this in when I worked with the teacher at the Title I school here at South Sac, where three of my teachers actually made a list of, not even a list, they made a community, I want to say statement, where they integrated the students, what the students expected from the teacher and what kind of classroom they would like to have with the teacher. So we had the teacher's expectation for the students, and then we also had the student's expectation from the teacher's expectation from the students. So what the students wanted from the teacher and what the teacher wanted from the students. And I think that was a great approach that those three of my teachers used in their classrooms to not only engage the students but also find a middle ground where they can agree to some things and try to work together, because the education and just learning in general is a two-way street. So when you meet them in the middle where they're at, I think that's a great approach and a great start to having a great classroom, and obviously having students in your classroom that respect each other as well as respect you. The second tip that he mentioned was, at least from my understanding, was to get personal. Um, get personal with the students, which means talk about your own experiences. Even your political views is welcomed. You can go ahead and talk about it with your students, as far as it's respectful and it's factual and it's not just based on feelings. Um, yeah, just bring those issues to classroom and show them exactly where you stand, and because you're not trying to please them all. So that is the goal. Um, and another one was to mention current events. So, whatever movement that is going on, or political conflict or disagreements that is going on within the parties, you should definitely try to find a way to integrate it in your classrooms, which is, I also think it's a great start to things. So yeah, because it does affect the students, and the students want to know, and some of them already know about it. So if you want to discuss it further in your classroom, is a great approach, I think. The fourth one would be having um, educating them on facts. Teach the students the truth, and like actual truth, and not just it's credible truth, I should say, and not just, again, your feelings about things. But when you mention these facts, they should be very truthful and backed up with data and research and whatnot. The fifth one would be ask the students for their take. Ask the students for what they think about the situations or the issues at hand. Um, yeah, I also think that's a really good one too. If you hear me flipping up the pages, I'm trying to read through my summaries. So yeah, and then the other one was to connect the discussion to your curriculum. That would be the sixth one, and I think that's also a really good start. Um, like tying back the discussion that you had in classes, either at the end of the semester, or you revisit the things that you've discussed throughout the semester, and trying to connect it to why it was important to bring up in the classrooms, to get the conversation started. And the seventh one was to create a group for the discussions. I guess this would be like starting like a restorative justice group, or just a group of where students feel safer to talk about the things that they feel is important to them, political or not. Um, Another one would be to take students' experiences and feelings into consideration, because those feelings matter. Like, they make sure that the students, you're trying to ensure that their experiences matter, because it does affect them in general, and they are humans, obviously. The ninth one was to get involved in your community, other than just hosting these discussions in your classrooms. Go ahead and get involved in your communities around you, where the students are from. Learning more about them is always a great start. And the last one, not the least, is to construct the goals of the discussion. What is the goal of the discussion? What is the outcome? What do you expect? Or what do you plan to for the outcome to be for the discussions that you're having with your students? And I think Milner's tips were very, very thoughtful, and I really appreciated every single one of them. And I'm going to move on to the last reading, which was Polak Mika. Um, her her argument from standing up against hate in schools is that in her piece, Pollack talked about the need for teachers to be more involved in advocating for students' right to learn, regardless of political stance, because the responsibilities and support is needed now more than ever. So these responsibilities include standing up against hate and intimidation, so schools stay safe for learning. The second will be to engage in the facts, like Milner mentioned, talking about the facts, and giving the children the truth, and not just like cookie cutter information. So engage in the facts, to speak the truth, and teach true history is a good start to advocating for students, and the last one would be to protect the right of students to learn. And this can be from either making education, public education, to be more specific, value, like, and then also having advocating for students' right to attend. Every student has to attend a school or have a right to an education, and um, also protecting students' other civil rights other than just the right to have education. So other parts, other aspects of their lives can be protected by teachers as often as they can. And this is because protecting the right to learn and the rights of students in general is the basic work of education, and all educators are needed to carry this out. That is all I have, and I really liked every single one of this article or pieces that talked about just fighting in general, fighting for students' rights, and making sure that they are told the truth, that they are engaged in the conversations, just like we do in the classrooms here in our discussions. But yeah, that's all I have for today. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you in my next vlog. Thank you.